There's a strange phenomenon that happens when you finally stop clinging, not in the careless, give up on everything kind of way, but in the quiet, soul-freeing way that unhooks you from the invisible chains of pressure, fear, and constant control. Because here's the wild truth. Most of the pain in your life isn't caused by what's happening. It's caused by how tightly you're holding on. You only lose what you cling to. Think about that. The job, the relationship, the identity you're trying so hard to protect. They're draining you because you've made them part of your survival. But what if letting go wasn't weakness, but wisdom? What if that's when everything finally falls into place? If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right and still feel stuck, anxious, invisible, this is for you. Stick around. There's a bonus lesson at the end that might just shatter everything you thought you knew. And if you get anything from this video, just get that. That's all you need to know in life. Number 1, the illusion of control and why letting go works. What if your constant effort to control everything is exactly what's making life so hard? We spend our days clenching, mentally gripping outcomes, people, plans, hoping that if we just hold tight enough, life won't fall apart. But here's the paradox. The tighter you hold sand in your hand, the faster it slips through your fingers. Control feels safe, predictable, but in reality, it's the ego's most convincing illusion. Let go or be dragged. It's not just a quote. It's a survival instruction, because the truth is, control doesn't give you freedom. It gives you fear, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of not being enough unless everything goes exactly as planned. In Buddhism, there's a principle called non-attachment. It doesn't mean apathy. It means allowing life to move without chaining it to your expectations. You don't own this moment. You're only here to experience it. And the more you force it, the more it resists you. Think about your own life. How much energy have you wasted overthinking, micromanaging, clinging to relationships, already drifting, or worrying about what hasn't even happened yet? And still, it didn't give you peace. It gave you pressure. Now imagine this. For one day, you stop interfering. You stop trying to control every detail. Instead of over-planning the perfect day, you breathe, you observe, and you respond. Not react, respond. With calm, not control. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I let go right now? Most of the time, the answer isn't danger, it's discomfort. And discomfort is the doorway to growth, the job you didn't get. Maybe it wasn't meant for your path, the relationship that ended. Maybe it was a chapter, not a destination. Life is always trying to guide you, but we're too busy resisting to hear it. When you let go, things don't fall apart. They fall into place. Not always the place you imagined, but often the place you needed. Because surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the strength to trust the flow rather than fight the current. Practice this. The next time you feel yourself mentally tightening, stop, breathe, ask, is this worth the weight I'm carrying? Then loosen your grip. Allow, trust. Watch what unfolds when you stop trying to manage every second. A monk once said, "Peace is not found in a place without noise, trouble, or hard work. It is found in the midst of those things when the mind is calm. That calm doesn't come from control. It comes from trust." What if letting go is how you finally find peace? What if the version of you you're trying to force isn't the one you're becoming? And what if surrender is the most powerful move you'll ever make? Remember this, if you want to fly in the sky, you need to leave the earth. If you want to move forward, you need to let go of the past that drags you down. Let go, let life meet you, and watch what falls into place. 2. The paradox of detachment. It makes you more powerful. What if the very thing you're clinging to is what's holding you back? We live in a world obsessed with outcomes, chasing goals, validating worth, measuring success in numbers. But the more tightly we pull on the string, the more we lose altitude. A kite doesn't rise by force, it rises when released. That's the paradox of detachment. The moment you stop needing something, you start attracting it. To let go is to gain control in a different way. It sounds backward, but it's deeply aligned with Buddhist wisdom. Detachment isn't about giving up, it's about showing up fully, mindfully, and without fear of what might happen next. When you're detached, you're not disconnected, you're just no longer imprisoned by the craving for control. In Buddhist thought, attachment is the root of suffering, not because wanting something is wrong, but because needing it to define you is. Detachment, then, is not apathy, it's freedom. It's acting from clarity, not desperation, from truth, not fear. Think about your own path. Maybe you've poured everything into a career move, a relationship, a dream, and the more you tried to force it, the more it slipped away. You stayed up late obsessing over outcomes. You replayed conversations, reworked plans, redoubled your effort. But instead of peace, you felt pressure. Instead of clarity, confusion. Why? Because your power doesn't come from the grip. It comes from your presence. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You shift your focus from "will this work?" to "is this true for me?" That one question changes everything, because now you're not reacting out of fear, you're responding from alignment. Practice this. Set your intentions clearly, but release the outcome. Speak with honesty, not manipulation. Show up to your work, your relationships, your dreams, not with expectation, but with sincerity. And then step back. Trust that what's meant for you will unfold in its own time. Meditate on impermanence. Watch your thoughts and emotions rise and fall like waves. Nothing stays, not even pain. The moment you realize this, you start living lighter. You begin to move with life, not against it. Ask yourself, am I pushing too hard for something that should unfold naturally? Often, what we force fails. What we allow grows. It's not weakness to surrender, it's wisdom. It's understanding that control is an illusion, but presence is power. What have you really gained by clinging too tightly? More peace or more pain? More clarity or more chaos? And what if, just what if, letting go is the shortcut to everything you've been chasing? Remember, the seed doesn't bloom because you scream at it to grow. It blooms when you give it space. Detachment doesn't disconnect you. It positions you for power, real power, the kind that flows from authenticity, not anxiety. So stop gripping, loosen the string, let your kite rise, let go, and let life lift you. 3. How overthinking repels what you want. You think you're being productive, but really, you're just stuck in your head. Overthinking disguises itself as problem solving. It promises clarity, but delivers chaos. Like stirring muddy water, the more you spin your thoughts, the cloudier everything becomes. A pond clears itself when you stop disturbing it, and so does your mind. In silence, everything becomes clear. But silence scares us. Stillness feels like failure in a world addicted to hustle. So we obsess, replay, forecast, and analyze, convinced that one more thought will unlock the answer. But it never does. Because overthinking doesn't come from wisdom, it comes from fear. In Buddhism, the monkey mind is the name given to our restless, jumping thoughts, always grabbing, always fearing, always doubting. The mind seeks control through thought. But true clarity doesn't arise from more noise. It arises when the noise fades. Have you ever noticed the answers often come not while thinking, but when you finally stopped, in the shower, on a walk, during a quiet moment of surrender. It's because you created space, and that space allowed wisdom to rise. We all crave peace, but we try to think our way to it, and that's the trap. Peace isn't something you chase, it's what's left when you stop chasing. Practice this. The next time your thoughts spiral, don't dive deeper. Interrupt the pattern, close your eyes, inhale peace, exhale the story. One breath, fully taken, can do more than 100 thoughts. Ask yourself, am I thinking or avoiding? There's a difference. Sometimes thinking becomes a shield from feeling, from making a decision, from facing the unknown. But life moves when you move, not when you overanalyze every turn. Set boundaries with your thoughts. If you're stuck on a decision, give yourself a deadline. Don't let it bleed into paralysis. Clarity loves decisiveness. Even a small action disrupts the mental loop. Trust simplicity, that quiet gut feeling you keep brushing aside. It's not weakness, it's wisdom, but you can't hear it while overthinking shouts over it. What would happen if you stopped fixing and just started feeling? Feeling the discomfort, feeling the fear, letting it pass like a wave instead of trying to control it with logic. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all, not in apathy but in awareness, in presence. Because the moment you stop resisting the present moment, it begins to speak to you, and that's where guidance lives. Are your thoughts helping or holding you hostage? This is your reminder that your mind is a tool, not your master. And tools only work when you learn when to put them down. So stop stirring, let the pond clear, let silence rise. And you may just find everything you've been seeking has been waiting there beneath the noise the whole time. Peace isn't out there, it's what's left when you let go. 4. Why caring too much backfires? Sometimes we care so much, we crush the very thing we're trying to protect. We smother dreams with perfectionism, relationships with expectations, and our own peace with pressure. It feels noble, this deep caring, but often it's fear in disguise. The fear of losing control, the fear of not being enough, the fear of not being loved unless we constantly prove our worth. But just like a flame, love and purpose grow only when they have air. Caring deeply doesn't mean clinging desperately. You've probably felt it, the heavy weight of holding everything together, for everyone, all the time. You say yes when you're exhausted. You try to manage others' emotions. You take responsibility for problems that were never yours to fix. It feels like compassion, but it's actually over-responsibility. And that doesn't lead to connection, it leads to burnout. In Buddhism, loving kindness isn't about control, it's about presence. Being with someone, or even yourself, without fixing, forcing, or managing. Letting people breathe, letting life breathe. When you truly care, you create space, and in that space, growth happens. Ask yourself, am I trying to be everything for everyone? It's not your job to be the healer, the pleaser, the perfect one. That's ego dressed as service. Real compassion begins when you allow people to live their own journeys, even when it's messy, even when it's not how you would choose. Let go of the need to be understood all the time. Let go of trying to control how someone sees you. When your worth is tied to external validation, your care becomes conditional, subtle, but heavy. And that's not love, that's fear pretending to be love. Reframe care as presence. Sit with someone without offering advice, support without solving. Allow yourself to rest without guilt. Care for yourself, not because you're trying to be better, but because you're already worthy. Release anxious attachment, the constant checking, the fear of being forgotten, the overthinking after every conversation. That's not intuition, it's insecurity. and that insecurity will sabotage your peace if you don't meet it with awareness. What would happen if you stopped trying to manage everything? If you trusted that people could survive without your constant intervention, that situations could resolve without your control? You'd be lighter, freer. And ironically, your relationships would deepen because they'd be built on trust, not tension. Not everything is yours to carry. You're allowed to care without controlling, to love without losing yourself, to give without grasping. Are you truly caring, or are you managing others with good intentions? This is your invitation to stop trying so hard. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to overgive to be valuable. Let the flame breathe. Let your soul breathe. Let go. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand what real care looks like. And when you do, everything, peace, clarity, connection, begins to fall into place. 5. What happens when you stop seeking validation? You were not born to be approved. You were born to be authentic. But somewhere along the way, applause became oxygen. The likes, the praise, the nods of approval, they started to feel like proof that you're enough. And slowly, without realizing it, your peace became tied to someone else's opinion. But here's the truth. A mountain doesn't need approval to stand tall. It just stands, unmoved, unshaken, whole. The constant chase for validation is silent but exhausting. You might dress it up as ambition, as being driven, but if your self-worth crumbles when someone disapproves, that's not drive, that's dependence. And it's keeping you from your full power, because when you live for applause, you become a performer in your own life, always asking, was that good enough? Do they like me? But validation is a moving target. It changes with trends, with moods, with people's projections. How can you build a stable life on such shaky ground? Buddhism teaches us that freedom comes not from being liked, but from being real. When you release the craving for approval, something sacred happens. You begin to hear your own voice again. You start living in alignment, not performance. You do things not for recognition, but because they're true for you. Ask yourself, who am I when no one's watching? If no one clapped, if no one noticed, would you still do what you love? Would you still speak your truth? Would you still show up? You are enough without applause. You are valid even in silence. And that's the shift. When you stop outsourcing your worth, you stop living in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being invisible. And in that fearless space, creativity flows, courage rises, purpose returns. Try this. Each day validate yourself, not with ego, but with truth. Name 3 things you did well, just for you. Maybe you showed up despite the fear. Maybe you set a boundary. Maybe you rested without guilt. Let those moments be enough. And the next time someone praises or criticizes you, observe it without clinging. Don't let it define you. Praise and criticism are just weather patterns. They pass. Your essence doesn't change because of them. Step into solitude, not loneliness, solitude. The space where no one else's opinion echoes. That's where the real you waits. The one who knows what to do, the one who doesn't need permission to breathe freely. So ask yourself honestly, are you living for applause or for alignment? Because if you're chasing applause, you'll always feel behind. But if you're living in alignment, even your silence will echo with power. Let go of the need to be seen, and you'll finally see yourself. Not as a version shaped by others, but as the mountain you've always been. Unshakable, quietly powerful, completely enough. 6. The whatever mindset and how it changes everything. You don't need to control everything to be at peace. In fact, the more you try to manage, fix, and force life into your image of how it should be, the more chaotic your inner world becomes. But there's a mindset, quiet, powerful, deeply liberating, that shifts the entire game. It's the whatever mindset. Not from apathy, but from a place of grounded wisdom. Whatever happens, happens. I remain. That's not giving up. That's anchoring yourself in something deeper than outcomes. Life is unpredictable by nature. Plans fall apart. People change. Dreams evolve. The mind wants to panic, scramble for control, demand certainty, resist what is. But what if peace wasn't about everything going your way, but about your ability to stay unmoved when it doesn't? Like the wind flowing around the mountain, not fighting it. The mountain doesn't flinch. It doesn't argue. It just remains. This mindset, this whatever consciousness, is not indifference. It's spiritual confidence. It's knowing that you can handle life as it is, not just when it's convenient. It's being rooted in your truth, even when the ground feels like it's shifting. And in that grounded space, you begin to see clearly. You stop overreacting. You stop making everything so personal. You start choosing your peace over your pride. Try practicing radical neutrality. Next time someone says something triggering, pause. Observe your reaction instead of obeying it. Ask, does this need a response or just my awareness? In chaos, whisper